What's up? It's me, Brianca Jay, your host. Thank you guys for coming back to another episode of Book Talk or Looking for Books. Whatever. Just thank you for coming to my small little corner of the internet where we talk all things books and all things literature. And I'm happy to have you. So if it's your first time here, go ahead, hit that like, comment, or subscribe button. If you've been here for a while, you can still do the same, okay? Because a lot of y'all be coming to visit me, holla at your girl, but y'all be forgetting to hit subscribe. Hit subscribe. Yeah, I mean, I want to show up more, but it's hard to show up for shit for free, okay? Hit subscribe for me so that YouTube can see my value and offer your girl a check. Anyway, today we are discussing Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. So he wrote this after being like a lead negotiator for the FBI, and he promises that all these tactics and strategies are things he learned while doing his job, negotiating kidnappings and terroristic threats in the FBI. The first thing he said is, no matter the situation, whether you are negotiating a hostage or you're simply asking for a raise, he says, do a few things. Pause, blink, re-regulate your heart rate. That's what he suggests. This is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Okay, so let's get into it. So he talks about a couple ways in order to win in a negotiation. And when you're negotiating, the goal is to get what you want out of the other person. And in that time, the other person is probably trying to, in a lot of ways, say no. So these situations happen in all types of settings. For him, it was like the FBI. But this happens at day-to-day things like, maybe, if you at work, getting a promotion, getting a raise, this comes up. You have children, getting them to eat their vegetables or clean their room, this comes up. If you're a student, you need to persuade your teacher in some way, this also comes up. So it's never a bad thing to learn how to negotiate effectively. That's never going to be a bad use of your time. So I came across the book and was like, hey, I could be a better negotiator. No matter how good I am, I can always be better, right? So, of course, first thing he says, no matter the situation, you need to pause, you need to blink, you need to re-regulate your heart rate. And I think this goes to show you that, you don't want to be impulsive and you don't want to be reactionary. So he encourages you to stop and to focus on your breathing, because that's going to re-regulate your heart rate, right? If you train your breathing, train your body, you're going to re-regulate your heart rate to then slow down and react appropriately to your situation. Another thing he tells us to do is to befriend the open-ended question tactic. Now, he calls this a tactic that focuses on calibrated questions. This is simply meant to buy yourself time. So I think we all can relate to this. At some point, your mom has asked you a very incriminating question. For me, it would have been something like, why did your teacher say you missed sixth period? And in that moment, right? Heart is racing. And so the first thing he tells you to do is try to ask some open-ended questions to buy yourself time. And I'll be like, who said I missed sixth period? Right? Why would someone say I missed sixth period? How do you know that? Where did you learn that? Who told you that? Right? Just saying things to buy time. Queries they have answers to, but no fixed answers. So he puts in for him, he negotiates for kidnappings in exchange for a ransom. So when they tell him listen, we need you to deliver us $1 million or you'll never see your son again, he'll say something like, well, how can I pay you? How do I know you'll make them, how do I know you'll do this? Like, and the goal here is to make them solve your problem for you. So if your bill collectors are telling you, we need you to pay X amount of money in this time, how will I get that amount of money? How can I make this happen, right? So create a scenario that makes them solve your problem. He tells us to ask 3 to 4 open-ended questions and then repeat them until the other side falters. So he basically wants to shift the focus away from what they're asking and focus on how to solve your problem. And he said just keep repeating the same questions. So he's not telling you to be like a rocket scientist here, right? Or be incredibly clever. He just wants you to shift the responsibility over to the other party. The next thing he says is get your adversary to talk. And then begin by validating their emotions. Start with their most basic wants, right? So you want to get your adversary to talk. And one of the best ways to do this is why are you doing this? Like, what's your purpose? What's your mission here, right? And then listen to what they're saying. Like, you need to be actively listening anytime you're negotiating anything, because you need to know the other party's pain points. If you don't know the other party's pain points, it's going to be increasingly difficult for you to effectively negotiate what you want out of them, because it's partially making them feel validated, heard, seen, and connected to. So even when you respond, right, so you get your adversary to talk, and they're going to probably come off with the emotional appeal. I'm so frustrated. The government is making it so difficult to make a living, so I kidnapped the journalist, or whatever the case may be. And then as the person listening, you want to validate that emotion. That does sound frustrating. Yeah, the government has been a dick lately. The recession has been hard hitting. Yeah, I've been struggling with gas too, right? I see you. I hear you. I understand you, right? You want to validate those emotions. And then he says, start with their most basic wants. Like, what do they want? Because you want to know what they want in order to, figure out their needs. So ask them, what do you want? And then see ways, not even that you're going to give it to them, but allow what they want to buy you more time. And you utilize that in a way to where your adversary is now off kilter. A lot of what he said is so a lot of things he talks about is about building trust with the adversary. So by just validating their emotions, listening to them, and understanding their basic wants, what you're going to do is let you stay rational and then be intellectual, but you're also building rapport, building a relationship with the person across from you. And you do this by establishing as much trust and using useful information. So actively listen to that person, and then use a mirroring technique. So that's when you repeat what the other person has said, but in an inquisitive tone. So he says, oh yeah, we've just been backed up on, deadlines since our account manager quit. I will respond, your account manager quit? Right? So be like a mirror. Repeat the last 2 to 3 words your counterpart says as a question, and then pause. Don't override the mirror. Watch your tone. Watch your tone. So you need to use a playful, positive tone. Smile as you speak. But sometimes you need to use a very soft, reassuring voice. So it's all about your audience. Make sure you're placing what your audience needs. And that's when it comes into the active listening. If they're really nervous and jittery, you got to tell them, hey, listen, Dave, we're going to get through this. We're going to figure this out together. But other than that, you want to sound real personable, real vulnerable, real fun to be around. And then, put their emotions to use, as I've told you guys. Tap into what that person's feeling. Make them feel like you're feeling it too, or you understand what they're telling you. Make them feel seen. Make them feel heard. and you want to label their pain. Don't feel their pain, but label it. So basically what you do in this technique is you acknowledge the other person's position and feelings so they become calmer and more rational. So if a person tells you they're worried, you tell the other person that you know they're worried, right? Their boss will think they didn't push hard enough, or that you know your kids are worried about that their classmates will make fun of them for going to bed, or whatever it is. Share it in their pain points. So you want to point out their pain point and tell them you understand what that is. You know what it is, right? And then the other thing is, don't rush. Don't rush. Don't rush into a finish line. Don't compromise, and don't accept demands. Your goal here is to never split the difference. So don't feel rushed as few deadlines are real, right? Take your time. Understand what the person is truly pushing for, and not what they really say. So you want to understand, like, the root of the problem, not what they say. Like, they're going to say, I want $1 million. But the root of it may be that they just want enough money to, like, pay off their house that's in foreclosure. Whatever the case is. So you need to get to the root of their problem, but don't go in ready to fix any of their problems. Then we have this other part of the work, just a deeper belief to surface level thing. And then I'm going to quickly wrap it up. One thing that I thought was very interesting that Chris Voss pointed out was that when we're negotiating, we are going beyond rationality. So a lot of times when we think about negotiating, we think about business. And we think about business, we think about logic. And we feel like business is no place for emotions. But the reality is that we are human beings, and all we really explore is emotions. So it is almost impossible to separate yourself from the notion of feeling things, right? You can't just not feel something. So the best thing in this way is understand that it's going to require more than logic, right? You need to understand that you're going to see more unpredictable behavior, and then sometimes you're going to even see more primal instincts, right? A wise negotiator then must understand the human psyche to be successful, because negotiating skills are not only required in the boardroom or a court of law. You got to do it everywhere. So if you understand human condition in all places, then you're more likely to be a better negotiator. And then in order to negotiate properly and to be able to understand another person's emotion is to start with respect, right? Because any relationship has to start with a basis of respect. You need to know as much information as possible about the situation and the people you're going to talk to. You need to know their needs, their goals, and their motivations. When you come in knowing what these people want, you're showing them a level of respect that's going to open up more doors for you. So don't be afraid to do your research prior to walking into any negotiation. You need to know your goals, right? You need to know their goals, what's important to them. If you're asking your boss for a raise, you need to also be aware of what your boss needs. Your boss may not necessarily be dedicated to giving you a raise, but they are dedicated to impressing their boss with higher retention scores, and if you can improve those scores, then he'd be more likely to give you a raise. You see what I'm saying? So it's very important that you consider what other people's needs are and how you can utilize them in the most advantageous way for what you need. How do you build trust? So you look to the other person closely and repeat what they say. And then you need to mirror them. And then, of course, if you do this well, there are like reports that say that mirroring produces 70% more opportunities than just using like positive words, right? So if I mirror what you say and show I understand you, I'm 70% more likely to affect you or impact you positively than I am if I just gave you a lot of positive words. The next thing you need to always be considerate of is your tone. Watch your tone. Be careful not to give away anxiety, anxiousness, distrust. Be very careful in making sure that your tone is as pleasant and as reasonable as possible. Most of the time, try to smile through the phone, but at very least, try to be reassuring and confident as you're talking to people. So be aware of your tone. And the best way to be aware of your tone is to be aware of your breathing, and it's to be re-regulating your heart rate. And then you need to be able to tune into other people's emotional cues. You need to be able to understand how other people are feeling, even if you're not talking. So it's called tactical empathy, and these are calming techniques that negotiators use to build rapport, and consist of telling the other person that you acknowledge his or her feelings, his motivations and position, and understand their feelings. This can be invaluable when dealing with someone who is acting irrationally. And then lesson 6, don't accept a bad deal. The answer is no. Don't rush. Don't take it, don't go quickly. Take your time. Decision making is first and foremost emotionally driven. Number 1, rational when negotiating is simply not enough. Make sure that you are not splitting the difference and you're getting everything you need off the table when you're negotiating. And then make people feel that they're safe and they're in control when you're negotiating with them. Don't make them feel as if you're getting one over on them. You don't want to come off as a slimy salesman, of course. So establish rapport, establish trust, be empathetic, understand emotional cues, and then ask these really good questions. If you do all of these things, you then, my friend, are going to be a master negotiator. Now, this book, again, like I said, this book is for more so when you're probably, when you're on one. I will agree that it works best when you're on the one end of the table. It's better if someone is asking you for something or demanding something out of you, and then you can kind of be like, how can I do that so quickly? How can I create that scenario? But I think with a little bit of cleverness, a little bit of ingenuity, it works on either side of the table. And it's just easier to negotiate when you have some of these ideas already placed in your mind. So I enjoy reading it, and I think that if you want more details, you check it out yourself and get to know it better. Or you go ahead and leave me some comments or email me and let's talk about it a little bit more, because I thought this book was really interesting. I really did. I thought it was interesting, and it led me to some other negotiating books. I think Start With No. I read that one. I will go over what I learned in that one in a bit here. And then I've also been reading How Successful People Think by Malcolm Gladwell, and I want to talk about that one in an upcoming video too. So stick around. I have more great information coming your way. See you soon.